Sorry?
Probably that's the easy answer.
That's the easy answer. There is a restaurant owner in New York. He runs the restaurants that I think it was rated 50 something or maybe more in the world. Really not on the top 10. And happens to be that the top 2 restaurants on the planet rated number one and number 2 happen to be in New York. So he's closed his restaurants for 48 hours. He took his entire team, every single person that works in these restaurants, and he bought them one evening in the number 1 restaurants, one evening in the second restaurant. And then he called everyone for a meeting, and he says, what do they do that we don't do? And everyone comes, every other magazine out of, this is my biggest competitor, this is what they do better than me, right? And then he says, let's reverse this one. What don't they do that diminish the experience? And 2 things came out. One of the guys says, it's a free Michelin star restaurant, and I like beer, and I like beer. I can never step into a free Michelin restaurant, and especially not dressed like this, and ask for beer. They will throw me out. You don't get beer in a free Michelin, not even in a 1 Michelin restaurant, you don't get beer. And the other answer was like, their coffee is shitty, because restaurants are investing maybe in food, but their coffee is shitty. And he told the guy, okay, you are my beer connoisseur, you are my coffee connoisseur. 4 months after, that restaurant was rated number 1 in the world, because they picked up on what the other people didn't do. And when we constantly focus on what our competition is doing and trying to compete with our competition, we are missing on where we can actually really improve. And with kids' books, so easy to create. I mean, you just have an animation studio next to you. Seriously. Yeah, so I mean, it's not rocket science it's these small things that we really don't understand that we can focus on. Same thing with Panayot with the magazine. I mean, yeah, how do you rethink the brand that makes Plovdiv the center of Bulgaria? Well, it is, right? It is. I've been told. It's very easy to pick up on what other people do better than us and try to put a lot of efforts into competing against that. But I want you to step back and figure out what don't they do better than us, and I actually have the resources to do better than them. And simple thing of serving beer in a high quality restaurants and making sure the coffee is the best coffee in town made that restaurants the number restaurants in the world in a 4 months journey. And that's when you look into this is exactly what you need to start and capture. I mean, I haven't seen many AirTags in Bulgaria, but around the world, AirTags are gaining popularity on daily basis, basically. And it's a very interesting tool. It's a technology by Samsung that was monetized like crazy by Apple. And survey shows that the majority of use of AirTags are to place them on suitcases because airlines are very reliable and they never lose your bag. There are crazy users that are, logical, but putting AirTags on kids when they're going into Disneyland, Disney World, because of United States is the safest country, greatest country in the world, so kids are not being kidnapped and, so. But when you really stop and think about it, if the majority of users is actually to put the AirTags on suitcases, why didn't Samsonite came up with this idea? Why didn't Lufthansa, which is one of the biggest airlines in the world, came up with this idea? How come it was a South Korean engineer that came up with this idea and a Silicon Valley company that monetized it? How come, things like, the smartwatch didn't came out of Switzerland? Why was Tag Heuer and Rolex, the last one to come into the smartwatch race? Doesn't it make sense that they are the one that will come up with this idea? Or ebook readers. Not Barnes and Noble came up with that. It was a technology company that came up with that. Same thing with Zoom. It wasn't Yettel or AT&T. God help, Yettel will come up with something innovative. But right, it was a completely different company. And if you're looking into accounting system, it wasn't Ernst & Young, Capgemini, or Ernst & Young, or one of these big consultancy company. It was a startup that came up with accounting companies. So what do you need to go back home and think about before someone else is thinking about it before you? How do you find a way to disrupt the disruptors? And I mean, I can pick up on specific industries in this room and that I can feel related to. Without doing research, I can no idea about your industries. But there are tools, there are ways for you to look into, and again, what can I do better than my competitor is doing versus what can I actually do that my competitor is not doing? And this line of thinking enables you to think about models that pave the way for disruption. It's literally how do you disrupt the disruptors? And the CEO of Netflix, yes, said one of the most important sentences a CEO ever said to their employees. We need to become HBO before HBO is becoming us. Right? It's a brilliant sentence. Too sad they didn't live up to it because Netflix became the dinosaur of the TV industry these days. But who do you need to become before they are becoming you? And I do want you to take, and the answer can be extremely crazy, because what resources do you have to actually, inside of your organization, inside of yourself, to actually make that journey? You heard about this company called Crocs, right? Do you know how Crocs was started? Do you know what they did to start with? They did isolation for superconductors. If you bought, I had the first generation of Crocs. They lasted for a very long time and it wasn't made in China. It was really made in Canada at that time. But that's what they made. And one of these days, their chief engineer, he started to play around with molds, with the materials. And he actually discovered the flexibility of shaping of that mold, and this is how Crocs came to life. It was the resources in front of them, and he could become the world's most sold shoes at that time, more than any other company on the market. So I do want you to take few minutes, think, and write on a piece of paper, what resources do I have that can enable me to become someone different? Right? Who can I become before they're becoming me? Think about if you want to go back to Yettel. Yettel can never become Google or Apple, right? Ever. Can Apple become Yettel? Overnight, if they take this decision, right? If you already see that Tesla is selling their routers in Bulgaria, if you encounter that, you can buy Starlink in Bulgaria. Not that cheap, not that expensive, but you can buy Starlink. So Yettel can never become a satellite, or A1, they can never become a satellite provider, right? But Tesla and Starlink overnight can become an internet provider for everyone in Bulgaria. And then when he's presenting the Tesla phone, he can do that as well. And Apple is already registered an operator, they just didn't pull the plug. I mean, they can issue soft SIM all around the world because they have the money to buy any mobile network. They have the resources to do that. But you all have resources to become someone before they're becoming you. And that's the trajectory that you need to think. So take a few minutes and think about who should you become before they're actually becoming you. And I will pick up on people to register, to say that. So you need to write it down and to think about it. You're looking at me like should I entertain in the middle at the same time? I didn't book 7 o'clock workshop. Look over there. I wanted to do it like in the morning. I'm over 50. This is usually, no, I'm kidding. It's not my bedtime, but I usually don't do it this late. I know that you worked all day, but maybe this is the best time when you're tired to come up with the most crazy ideas of who should you become before they're becoming you. Because that's the biggest monetization value that you have to put in front of yourself. Anyone wants to give it a stab? You want me to share my story? No one wants to hear what I have to say anymore. Good, I can take a break. I love to write. I've been standing on stages for the last 23 years, and I got tired, and I feel like that even one hour time difference, I get a jet lag when I fly these days. And I wanted to stop doing keynotes. And spending 23 years in that industry, I realized everything that is broken in the keynote business. That's why don't I start my own speaker bureau? But I also love to write, and one of the things that I miss in the speaker bureau is, if you go to any speaker bureau today and says, I need a keynote speaker, it's like a Tinder. It's like a meat market of people. 400 speakers, who is the right speaker for your organization? We don't have any clue, and it's becoming this 45 minutes keynote, and you go home and there is no value, there is no impact, nothing happens. I say, okay, how do we change that? How can I become the future keynote agencies before anyone else is doing that? So we started, I joined forces with a very good friend, and we started a company called Think Machine, which is a speaker bureau. We just launched it in March, and a publication. But I can write certain type of content. I cannot write all of the content. So I put it, every keynote person, every keynote speaker that we take on board needs to contribute once a month from their article. That's how I generate content for the publication. And no other keynote speaker has done that one today. And I figure out, wait, I already have all of these talents and they want to promote themselves. Why don't we start a series of podcasts? So we're starting to produce a series of podcasts. And then I realized the most difficult thing, cannot spend money on constantly going out of, to other companies to produce everything that we do. So we started a small in-house production company. And I go back to the fact that I like to write. And I says, what if I actually become a publisher? So I decided to approach the Bulgarian library and says I want to be a publisher. And they said, of course, no problem. And they approve us as a publisher in a 1-week process. And we have 5 books that we are launching this year. And that's the type of thinking of who I can become. And yes, I do want to become the main publisher that takes Bulgarian author out of Bulgaria and put them out there. Because if you will take all of the Bulgarian books that ever translated into English, you will put them on one library. But there are great stories out of this country, and that's the aim, that's the mission of Rethink, the publication house, to find as many Bulgarian authors that can write in English and to put them out there. There is not a single holistic Bulgarian history book translated into English. Not a single one. And holistic, that takes the entire Bulgarian history. And that's what we aim to do. That's what we are trying to put out there. And this was my line of thinking, of doing something before someone else is doing it. And I wanted to have this before Bulgaria is joined to the EU, before people come. Because, once Bulgaria is in the EU, there will be a lot of people that starts to travel here, and we do things in a completely different way. We don't, instead of having a book launch, we are filming a documentary on how the book was written. Very different way of going to market and telling these stories. Not a lot of sleep, but a lot of different ways of doing that. Therefore, we couldn't find a single photography shop in Plovdiv to do that. And this is the mindset that you need to have. Even, it doesn't matter if you run your business or you're part of business or this is the trajectory. The minute a person and don't take it because it's the wrong way of looking into workplace culture. But if you're working in Google, the minute you appointed a team leader, everyone else in the team is trying to stab you in the back because they want your position. And Google employees are one of their main measurement tools is how many patents are registered a month, right? A month. But even at the workplace, if you want a promotion, who should you become before they're becoming you? Not in an evil way like Google, but in a simpler way. And it's a mindset that creates these businesses. And how many of you working in a company that has more than 1,000 employees? 1, 2. So, more complex. But on smaller companies, there is no reason for you not to create this way, because smaller companies are looking for the growth, are looking for the right trajectory to move forward. And this is why who should you become before they are becoming you is one of the most important tools that exist out there. And in the end of the day, we as humans, we are driven by three things, right? Three words. It's what do I need, what do I want, and what do I wish for? If we do get hang on the needs. You have 3 daughters, I have 3. You have 2 daughters, I have 3, and the son. So a little bit more challenging, sure. Right? Especially when they're like, all of them are above the age of 20, it's a big headache. But I need a new phone. Do you need a new phone? Or do you want a new phone? Or do you wish for a new phone? And all of them are coming together. I need the new iPhone. No, you want the new iPhone. Right? Me as a dad, I'm here to cater for all of your needs. 90% of what I do is catering for your needs. What you want, go and work and get it for yourself. And that's how you need to differentiate the relationship between these words. You need to have a work environment that cater for 90% of your needs, that automate 90% of your needs. You need really to have a customer relationship management systems that is transparent, that you don't need to work for it, but it's actually working for you and covering 90% of what you need. So you can spend 9% having dialogue with your customers about what they actually want. What do you want? We don't do this. We don't talk to customers and ask customers, but wait, what do you want? We never take the time to figure out what our customers want and how do we create a direct feedback loop between their wants to feed it into our system. And as a human being, always spend 1% of the time thinking what you wish for. Because it's this wishing create a sustainable society over on Mars. It's the 1% wish. Then you create the entire system of what I want and how do I automate my needs. And maybe it's the hardest thing to actually achieve, but this is really an exercise I want you to do. It's for yourself, so I really want you to take the time and write it and think about the answer. We are not going to point, it's for you as individual. But take a few minutes and answer a very specific, very simple question. Where you are today in life? It's harder, right, than you think. And if I will ask you in your business, you already pointed, right? I'm in a dying business, but it's okay. This is where you are. I'm in visualizations that I'm in a dying industry or a dying business. This is where you are today. And we don't take the time to actually write this and understand where do we stand today. And I think that's one of the most profound questions that we should ask ourselves from time to time. Wait, stop. Where am I? Am I on the right path? Where am I today? We are just rushing. And a lot of this rush in Bulgaria has more entrepreneurs than any other country I ever visited.
Zero.
Every single fucking person is a CEO of a company. How many employees? It's just me and my dog. I'm a CEO on 2 companies. I have a company with my cat as well. Right? Why? Because the economic infrastructure doesn't exist here. It doesn't. Like it or not, it doesn't. It's a struggle. I meet people on a daily basis that are rushing and have 2 and 3 jobs because they are trying to put put food on the table. And I get it. I mean, I was so poor in my life, I lived in a car. My wife and I, with 4 kids, we had a struggle in Sweden, the best country in the fucking world. We were thrown to the street from the house. We were about to live in a tent with 4 kids, very young kids. I understand the struggle. But if these struggles happen without a thinking, wait, is it the right direction or not the right directions? We are constantly in this loop of a struggle, especially for young businesses, so small businesses. And the results, what's the results of this? Is FBET signs all across the highway. That's the simple result. And no one is going to change the economy except the people in this room. My wife, she was born in, well, yeah, I would say when she was born. She was born in 73. And from her class, right, not from her class, from her school, right, only 2 people lived in Bulgaria. She just returned as the second one. How do we bring back all of the Bulgarians that left without showing there is an economic infrastructure to build on? And I'm sorry, we cannot look into the government because there isn't any government. There isn't. It's fine. But this needs to be a grassroots movement, and it's a grassroots movement that starts with meeting like this. It's not enough. Dimitar, I will look at you now. It's not enough just to have speed dating. The speed dating needs to have a meaning. How is your business can help my business make more money, as a result, the other business is going to make more money. Every single one of you, if we will go into like deeper conversations, can help the business next to you and grow. Because we all have these tools. But we are focusing on competitions rather than on partnership. And I mentioned the partnership in the beginning. That's one of the most important things. It is the partnership. And the partnership is where you have, this is the what I want dialogue. This is what the speed meetings should be about. But every speed meetings I participate, it's not just in Bulgaria, everywhere, is about, can you buy my services? No. I don't know you. But what do you want? How can we actually sell services together? How can we grow together? And not everyone is going to survive this journey, but I mean, go back to SpaceX. Did you know that SpaceX top 3 engineers for SpaceX, born in Bulgaria, in Sofia, went to university in Sofia? Bulgaria doesn't have a fucking space program. Why is this happening? Right? My wife was supposed to be here today, but happened to be that she's a musician, and in Contrabass there is a big event from the music school, and they're hosting a music college from Los Angeles, one of the top music colleges from Los Angeles. Their students are playing contrabass. And I excuse her because one of the teachers, actually 3 of the teachers from LA are Bulgarian born. Not living here, living in LA. How do we create an economic infrastructure that change that? One of the books we're publishing is called Nauko. It's written by an American guy that fell in love many, many years. Do I say it correctly? The Nauko? Yeah. It's a great book. It's the culinary history of villages in Bulgaria. Why Babas are cooking the way they're cooking. Why did they choose the ingredients? It's an amazing story. And it's written by an American guy, American chef, that fell in love with Bulgaria, got married, got divorced. He has an 11-year-old kid. His kid is refusing to speak Bulgarian. His mom is Bulgarian. He refused to speak Bulgarian because he thinks it's an inferior language. And he thinks Bulgaria, and all of his friends, they think Bulgaria is an inferior. They live in Sofia, so maybe there is something about Sofia. But this is not a story that should be told and should happen. And it might sound depressing, but at least understanding the story enable us to change that trajectory and create this ground that bring back. And the thing is that most of our friends in Sweden were Bulgarian families. And they are doctors, and they are linguistics, and they are engineers. And they're like, tell us if Bulgaria improved because we don't want to live in Sweden anymore. We want to go back. And people want to come back here because authenticity is still a huge thing in this country. People are honest. People are real. It's one of my biggest fear of adopting the euro is to experience a rapid GDP growth. And are you crazy? Because the higher the growth, and there are tons of examples, the higher the growth of the GDP, the less empathy society is having. And I don't know if, and people are talking about quality of life. But what is the quality of life? And everyone in Bulgaria loves to complain, but everyone is fucking sitting in happy in coffee shops. But people in Germany cannot afford that. But in Bulgaria, it is affordable. And don't tell me that's not part of the quality of life. So the streets are not perfect, and the roads, well, they are what they are. You need a very strong chassis for the car in Bulgaria, right? But quality of life is, when I needed a doctor in Sweden, I waited 18 months, 9 months to get an appointment for an MRI, and another 9 months to get a surgeon to tell me that my MRI is wrong. Old. Yeah, but is it my fault? But my wife is getting a phone call on Viber from her doctor in the weekend. Why didn't you pick up the medicine that I subscribed to you? Is that quality of life? So maybe it's time to stop complaining and start elevating these stories, because that's the difference. We live in Kashaka, and I go out of my block and I walk here. I don't need to leave. I have there is a dentist. There is a pediatrician. For when our kids are going to have grandkids, obviously they're probably going to live with us because someone needs to teach them. And you don't trust millennial stuff. and we have 4 grocery shops. Try to find this in Germany or in Sweden or in LA or in New York. And we like to talk about premium. But premium for me is coming to a restaurant that they have seen me a few times and they're smiling and ask me if I want the usual. That doesn't happen in Western Europe. And there are so many stories about quality of life and premium that are driven by empathy. And that is still core of the Bulgarian culture. And for me, it's awful that when you're opening YouTube, looking for videos about Bulgaria, you see a gypsy riding a donkey with half of the trabant on the street. I love it. I think it's a very Kosturica, but that's not the stories we want to tell about Bulgaria at the end of the day, right? And these stories exist, and it's up to us. Well, I will pick on 3 of you again: books and animation, to tell these stories. Because there are some brands are born to tell stories, and that's fine. But great brands are born to make stories. And when you make a story, you create a culture, and culture are undeniable force in what is shaping society. Simple as that. Apple is a culture. Levi's in a culture. Lego is a culture. Coca-Cola is a culture. Windows, Microsoft is not a culture. It's just a rich company. It's not. Linux is a culture. Geeky, but culture. Right? How do you think culture, and you have all of these tools around, how do you bring the attributes of what we can look at luxury, we can look at premium in this lifestyle? I mean, our apartment is small, and we have all of the kids and my wife family. Everyone is coming at the same time. And luckily enough, we have a neighbor downstairs that is traveling until September, and he says, of course, your family can use my apartment. Try this in Germany. Try this in Sweden. I mean, there is this joke in Finland, the same, that a guy got stuck in the elevator, and after 4 hours, we decided to say, hey. I mean, there are so many qualities on the street here. Yes, like every other society, there is negative things, and you need to measure it. But there are so many good things that you can harness to tell your story, to make your brand, to create new businesses, to attract new international clients into here. And I think the focus should not be on the Bulgarian economy. You have an entire, Western Europe that you have a huge audience that is dying for authenticity, dying to have this human touch that they are missing. And we can talk a lot of shit about millennials and Z generation and alpha generations, but I'm so happy to see beyond the TikTok that they are looking for human touch at this moment of time. And these are your audiences. This is who you need to cater. And this is why we said we're going to make this in English, because there is also a language barrier, which, it's better than France here, but you speak English, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That's the answer you get in France, right? So the first thing is like where you are today. But here is another question that you need to ask yourself. What's your goals? What's the goals of your business? Not the purpose. Because every single person in this room that is working in a business or is part of a business or owns a business, there is one purpose. All businesses on the planet has one purpose, and that's to make money. Otherwise, don't go into business. Even NGO cannot exist without the money. The purpose of every single business is to make money. What do you do with that money? That's fundamentally different. That's connected to your mission statement. So we put a mission statement for ourselves that in all of our ventures, 10% of everything we do goes for children education in remote villages in Bulgaria. That's 10% of, that's how we want to spend money. You do, I want to change the world. Okay, go and change the world without money. It doesn't really work. So the idea of thinking of what's your goal, and the goal can be in 5 years, I want to have 2 million customers. That's fine. That's a goal for the business. That's great. Right? The goal is not related to the money in this case. And you need to go and adjust your goals as you move forward, as you progress. And now you have very, very two simple things in front of you. You know where you are and you know where you're going. That's more than 90% of the people or business that you're going to meet. Right? And the two people that says more than 1,000 people in the company. Walk around the organization, do this exercise, report it back to the next Hills of Business meeting. Ask the people around you, what's the vision of our company? What's the vision? 50% of the people will know the vision, I can tell you that. I ask the former chairman of the Bulgarian National Bank, what's the vision of the Bulgarian National Bank? He didn't know. Right? So 50% of the people, they don't know what's the vision because it's very hard to write a vision statement. And they don't know. And let's pick up on the 50% that knows what the vision of the company. Let's ask second question. Okay, so what's the strategy that we have, the company has to realize on that vision? Now you lost another 50% of the people. Actually, it's more. You lost statistically, you lost around 70% of the people. And then those who ask the strategy, ask them another question. What projects are the most important project to realize this strategy? You completely lost them. And the most important question, how is your individual task contributing to the company, to the project, to the strategy, and to the vision? How do you link it? And this is something you need to ask yourself every day. How does me spending money or spending time with a meeting with this client in front of me is actually part of my own project, vision, strategy moving forward? Sorry?
It's very depressing.
Of course, it's a very depressing thing. Didn't we put on the small text depressing workshop? Right?
It was voted out.
It was voted out. But the thing is that we don't realize how important the answer for these things. Because when I ask myself, any one of you familiar with the concept of inbox zero? Inbox zero was developed many, many years ago, was an idea to simplify the workload you have with your digital mailbox, right, with your email. And you will never find unread, unanswered email in my inbox for the past 20 years. I get an email, I categorize, I answer, I don't have unread emails. My daughter, one of our daughters on the other hand, 83 1,000 unread emails. She said she's collecting them. That's fine. I'm OCD, that will never happen. That's inbox zero. But then I spent 10 years working at Volvo. And the Swedish culture is a culture that loves meeting, right? They love meeting. My first job in a Swedish company was in a consultancy firm. And how is consultancy firm making money? When all of the consultants are out of the office. But they called the 200 consultants in that firm to come this Friday for a very important meeting. We thought that they're going to fire all of us. The purpose of the meeting was to decide on the color of the curtains in the office. I wanted to jump from the window because the purpose is not to be in the office. I don't care about the colors of them. But everyone, Northern Europe, they love meeting. And I created the meeting zero based on the inbox zero. And it works for me great until today. If any one of you is sending me an email, right, asking to meet me, and from the subject line, I don't understand what you want to talk, I'm not going to open the email. I'm not going to waste my time. I don't accept one-on-one meeting request. What the hell is that? It doesn't make any sense. This is why we have a subject line, and you can put as many letters as you want. This is what the fuck we want to talk about. So I don't need to open it. It's very simple. And apply it to customers, and you see how they react. This is what you want to talk about, right? That's the subject. The second thing, if I understand, I open and I see it's more than 5 people, I decline. I don't like people. I never like to go to IKEA, right? It doesn't happen, okay? And if it's more than 20 minutes, I decline. Because if 5 people cannot decide on something in 20 minutes, what are we doing? What are we doing? How much time you spend in meetings on daily basis? Because you don't apply certain rules to what you actually want, right? I never do more than 2 sales meeting with a client. Never. A client wants to meet me. The first time is meet and greet. Second time we need to agree on a project. There is not going to be a third meeting, because if we couldn't agree after we spend 40 minutes together, why? My time is, it's an asset. I can create new revenues thinking about new ideas. And do I miss clients? Of course, because there are clients that probably need like 5 meetings to close the deal. But do I have my my sanity? Yeah. And it's open doors. And you need to, and I'm not saying take my rules, they're working for me. But create yourself your set of rules of how do you work with your colleagues, how do you work with your clients. And really always talk with the clients about what you want, which is bring to the third questions. You know where you are, you know where you're going. What do you need to learn yourself in order to get there? And this is really important question, because I met a lot of people that think that they are knowing everything. But if you figure out who should you become before they become you, right? You figure that one out, that's great. And you figure out the resources that you need to utilize it. But you also need the knowledge to make it happen. And we all need to learn something every day. What do you need to learn yourself? Do you need to open Coursera and take a course about an AI to understand how AI is working? What do you need to learn? And we don't really, and I understand how the hecticness of life. But if you're looking about all of the greatest, leaders and business leaders in history, they never stop learning on daily basis. Comes to the fact that, people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk, they consume 3 to 4 books a week. And you don't need to do that. I cannot read, that much. But you need to figure out what do you need to learn in order to get to where you want to get. And maybe you figure out, you know everything, that's great. But then I'm not sure you're going to the right place. And then the last question that you need to answer is every single person next to you know at least one thing that you don't. What can other people teach you? Because there is a self-learning and there is support learning. What do I need for people around me? What do I need to learn from them? Who should be my mentor in this journey? I decided to, how to define it? I wanted to learn more about the marketing world and how advertisement and engagement actually going to look like. And it's something that I started to look into around, it's almost 8 years now. And I was very blessed of finding a mentor that can actually get me the insights and you know, on weekly base, bi-weekly base, we have a 75 years old marketing genius, one of the top names in marketing. And he was willing to teach me what I don't know. So who is your mentor that can be? And the fun part, mentor is not someone older than you necessarily. We are starting to film a series of documentaries. I want to reach kids using TikTok. I don't have any social media. My kids does. I don't have any patience to sit with my kids and ask them to teach me, but my wife is sitting on daily basis with the kids and asking them to teach her TikTok. And you will find out that the young generation can actually teach you so much more about technology than any other person around you. But we need to leave the ego outside and says, can you mentor me? There was I forgot the name of the company. It's an American fashion company, one of the biggest ones. The name will come. CEO was 65 years old, really fashion icon. And when all of the things with social media started, he took an advisor to his board of directors, right? To his board of directors, he took an advisor, a 16-year-old refugee from Rwanda. And that was like around 10 years ago when just social media started. Think about how much ego was left outside of the room to take a 16-year-old refugee from Rwanda to teach the board how social media and how kids interact, because that was their product for kids. How many CEOs have the balls to actually pull something like this? And the ability to learn from others and to cooperate with others is one of the most important tools that exist, which goes back to the entire hills of business and networking. It should not be just, we go to emo, we take a drink, we have a speed date. No, you do a follow-ups and you find a person that can teach you something that can help your business and you return a favor to someone else. That's how economy grow. That's how Silicon Valley started. And we cannot copy Silicon Valley into Plovdiv, but we can create the same culture of teaching other different things in order to grow in the end of the day. I had the remote somewhere here. Yes, it's here. I spent on these slides, I think for the 10 years I spent on these slides. To make one slide, I can write a 17,000 words article in a day. But to make a slide took this amount of time because there was a need to simplify how strategy is being made. And to make it, I needed to steal the left part from Eric Schmidt. This is how he ran Google. And it's the same exercise that you do on the vision, strategy, people, project, and tasks. What's your core earning model? How do you make money in your business today? How do you make money in your business?